been robbed of freedom from a very young age. My parents actually forced me into child labor. There was no weekends, no holidays. And so it felt like a jail when I was young. My dad said, if you ever succeed or be rich, I'll jump off this balcony and kill myself. I ended up just going against everything they said anyway. So I'll prove you wrong.
Linh Podetti, an entrepreneur who has made a remarkable journey from being a single mother to becoming a successful business leader. She's the founder and CEO of Outsourcing Angel, one of Australia's leading outsourcing companies that help business owners connect with virtual assistants. She now has a business model that combines profit with social impact. What's the advice you're giving to that person that wants to make a change in their life today? What are you telling them to do?
I would say I am so passionate about advocating for work-life balance and achieving freedom now, because people think freedom is this kind of, future far-fetched thing. They're waiting for $100 million and, lots of money. I've seen a lot of entrepreneurs who's already successful financially and yet don't have the freedom. And that's because freedom is designed. It's something that you intentionally design earlier on, because more money doesn't actually create you more freedom and happiness. It's actually what you do with your time intentionally so that you create the freedom.
What does the next decade look like for you in terms of business and personal life?
I feel like...
So Lynn, when you describe your business, you talked about the reason for starting the company is that it was you wish that you had that kind of freedom company available to you back when you got started on your journey. Mm-hmm. What do you mean by that?
Well, freedom is written all over me.
Literally written on you with the tats.
Well, first of all, I feel like I've been robbed of freedom from a very young age. My parents actually forced me into child labor. I started working at the age of 10, after school, sewing for them. There was no weekends, no holidays. And so it felt like a jail when I was young. And so it really caused me into a lot of rebellion. I ran away from home. And then I went down the wrong path, dated wrong people, and then I ended up having a baby. And the baby at the age of 20. And when you have a child, you really need all the freedom and flexibility that there is to offer. But when you work in a corporate job, there is no flexibility. And so I realized quickly that I really needed to take ownership of my life. I needed to be able to design the life so that I could be there for him rather than dropping him off early in the morning and then at night. And so that was my desire for starting a business, because I realized that if I work for someone, I'm always going to have to ask for approval, pretend I'm sick, and I just realized there were a lot of people in this company who has worked for 15, 20 years. They're complaining, they don't like it, but yet they're there because of the paycheck. And I said, I'd rather, not have a job and just, pursue my own business so that I could achieve the freedom.
That's amazing. So do you feel it's done that for you?
Yeah. At the beginning, when you have any business, you're working day and night. You don't know when you're going to get paid. And there are often times I wanted to get back into a job. It's like you get stable income. But I keep reminding myself that, hey, I can always go back to a job. Let's just keep going. And I'm glad that I did, because eventually I've been able to build a business that has staff. I learned to become a better leader, because even when you have staff, if you don't understand how to delegate and systemize and scale yourself out of it, people are still stuck in it till this day. And I am so passionate about, advocating for work-life balance and achieving freedom now, because people think freedom is this kind of future far-fetched thing. They're waiting for $100 million and, lots of money. I've seen a lot of entrepreneurs who's already successful financially and yet don't have the freedom. And that's because freedom is designed. It's something that you intentionally design earlier on, because more money doesn't actually create you more freedom and happiness. It's actually what you do with your time intentionally so that you create the freedom. And so would I say I have the freedom? Yes, freedom of choice. If I want to work longer, I work longer because I want to, but not because I have to. And I have the freedom to travel anywhere. My business is completely remote. And I would say that I have the ultimate freedom now.
I love that. I love that. And look, we share a passion and it's for business systems. So you've designed an operating system for your life and businesses, and that can be shared with others. I've done that in my real estate groups and the operating system I've created for other tier one agencies, so that they can work within a framework and design the business and the customer experience that they are after. But there's a positive byproduct that's come from this. And that is that, about 5 or more years ago, you were basically semi-retired. In your early to mid-30s, you were semi-retired. What do you put that down to?
Yeah. So I did like the word semi-retired because there was a friend that was watching my journey and I was always traveling and enjoying life. And he's like, it's like you're already retired. And I'm like, actually, I am like kind of semi-retired. And I kind of took that word and play with it. But I had feedback from people and they're like, hey, if you're still in business and you call yourself semi-retired, I think maybe other businesses might not want to work with you because you might be half asleep, half dead. So you'll see that I stopped calling myself semi-retired, but it's in line with what it's like to be semi-retired, which is you work when you want to and you spend time doing what you love, and I realized that you don't have to wait till you're 65 to do that. You can do that now. And so I purposely, for example, on school holidays, I told my assistant, block it out. I don't want to work. And I can do that. But when I'm not working, if I get bored, I can work again. So, semi-retirement, it happens when and it happened a lot earlier. I don't have a, 9-figure, 8-figure business, but yet I live a life as if I do have that kind of business. And I realize that I have friends that are, in YPO and, doing really well, and they're just as trapped as someone that is just new to business.
Yeah, and that is a bit of a thing, definitely. Like, signing ourselves up for some sort of mission that keeps unfolding. And I feel like there's a lot of advice out there for founders, usually from people who aren't proper founders. Like they're people who are selling courses that are sort of based on someone else's content. And, I really like the sort of term that says, like, one of the things in business, don't buy an online course that the only thing they've been successful at is selling an online course.
Exactly.
Especially if it's on business. So this choice that you've created, I really mean that comes back to what abundance really is. So that's an amazing outcome to arrive at now. But, you gave a bit of a indication to that when we talked about the start you had and, effectively being asked to perform childhood labor when you were like 10 and then on. And you made a comment that, you got tied up with the wrong people. What did that look like? You mentioned there was an outcome that you ended up having a baby very young, but how did you get caught up with the wrong people? What was the sort of catalyst to end up in that situation?
Well, being Vietnamese, we tend to, go into little groups and gangs and fighting, and it was kind of normal in Melbourne at that time. But I think what happens when you come from a dysfunctional family is you seek connections elsewhere. And I think when I started to hang out with the bad boys and the, people dealing drugs and having the freedom, whatever they want to do, they just do outside and they don't care about rules, it kind of gave me that excitement, like, hey, I don't have that. I want to do that. And so I started dating guys, who were on drugs, who were in and out of jail and things like that. And then, but even though my parents had, they were telling me, don't date this person. You can't change this person. But, when you're young, you just think you can change people. But I think I was just trying to go the opposite to my parents. Since my parents were not the ones that were supportive, they were the ones that shut down my dreams. They were the ones that said, you can't achieve that. There's no way, because they've never seen anything like that. So they were like, even my dad said, if you ever succeed or be rich, I'll jump off this balcony and kill myself. He even cursed like that with certainty that I would not succeed. And so because I disagree with them and I don't believe what they're saying because they don't have the success that I want, I end up just going against everything they said anyway. So I'll prove you wrong. And so I went down that wrong path, going out, partying, drinking, drugs, everything. And it led me to having a child, also just being really naive. When you're so sheltered, all you do is work at home. Your parents don't really spend quality time explaining to you about life. All you do is work. You don't really know any better. I actually was so sheltered that I didn't know bad people exist in this world. I just thought there were killers and murderers, and then there were good people. I didn't know there were people in between who were liars, who just say things and manipulate you. And so I was easily manipulated into, hey, let's have a kid, and then I just did. But I think the advantage to me being so ignorant is that I don't know what the consequences are. And that helped me with my business too, because if I knew all the steps that we'll take to succeed in business and all the pain that we're going to go through, that we might not get paid for a couple of years, maybe I wouldn't. But I was like, oh yeah, I'm going to be a millionaire on the first year. How easy it would be just to make $1 from 1 million people, right? So just being so optimistic like that led me into starting a business and continue on. Having the baby was the same thing. Yeah, I can do that. My mom was like, it's a baby. It's a baby. Yes. It's one of those decisions that you don't reverse. It's not like a drunken night, drink and then tomorrow you sober up. This is a child that I kept, but it really taught me an early lesson on time management, on work-life balance, right? Nowadays, you hear the 30-year-olds, 40-year-olds, when they start to have children, they start to go, oh, hang on, I need to be productive. I need time management. I need all that. And I just had that lesson a lot earlier in my 20s.
Yeah, learning it at 20 is a pretty big deal. So, yeah, wow, that's incredible that you've been able to do that. You've got such resilience and adaptability. I imagine there would have been sort of a moment where you were feeling like something needs to change before you got into this big arc to improve yourself and create this life of freedom that can come from having your own business. There would have been sort of a low moment. Take us there. What was happening?
Yeah, there were lots of low moments in my life, and all I could say, it was miserable. But one thing that was different in 2010 was the first time when I surrendered and realized I can't fix it. Every other problem used to be, all right, next time I won't date this person. Next time I'm not going to do this. And it's all about me, me, me. Yeah, I know what's best for me. I know not what not to do, from yesterday's learning. But then there was one moment after a breakup of a relationship. It wasn't my son's father or anything. It was like I've dated many, many people and, went on only to one day felt like broken, felt like, oh my God, I'm exhausted. I can't do this anymore because I tried to control every situation or try to do things differently every time, but it never worked. And it was the first time that I just broke down, felt as if like I had no way out. Because even all the other time when I was disowned or ran away from home or didn't have my family to support me when I had a child, I still had a solution. Somehow I thought I had a solution. But at this time, I finally realized that I don't know what to do anymore. So I kind of cried out to whoever God was. And in that moment of crying out and surrendering, I felt like that was the shift. That was when I kind of just gave up and almost cried out for help to, godly Father, whoever he is out there. And in that year, that was when I was exposed to all the right things. So that was when I discovered life coaching, which I did a course. I learned that I wasn't a good life coach, but I definitely needed to coach my own life. And that changed everything. I didn't realize that we can control our mind, and a lot of our trauma and a lot of the way we grew up made us who we are. And that was like eye-opening for me. I didn't know. I never even heard of Tony Robbins. I could not believe that. And, and at the time I didn't know much about Oprah other than liking her show because it was interesting, but didn't understand some of her success methods around gratitude. And so I got deeper into personal development, and that year changed everything. I started to follow, Jim Carrey's manifestation technique where he wrote a check to himself of $10-15 million or something by a due date. And so here I am sticking a little checkbook on my check page on my wall of 200 grand. And at that time I had to move back home because I started a business, and I'm like, okay, I have to prioritize going back home so that I'm not financially strapped. My mum would come in and go, what's that check on the wall? I'm like, I'm gonna get that next year. And without ever achieving that goal, all I did was just follow what these gurus said. It's just fully self-belief, And I said, if I've never been able to do anything right before, maybe this time is about doing everything that is opposite of what I used to believe. Just follow it, right? There's nothing to lose but to follow. And so I did that. I stuck a picture of a beautiful house that I wanted, a beautiful car. And then in that year, everything manifested. Even though, so I was single at the time as well. I wrote down my wish list as according to Tony Robbins. You have to be clear on what you want. Before, I had one criteria. He has to be hot. That's it. And obviously you attract what you get. And
red hot.
Red hot
out of jail.
He has to be cute. Yes. Don't care about anything else as long as he looks like a good handbag. And then, but this time it was right. It was like, unless you're clear of what you want, you can't attract that. And you also have to be that person that you put down. If you said you want them to be loyal and family oriented and ambitious and positive, are you that person? So I did everything by the books, and then everything happened. I manifested everything literally. So that was when I discovered there is a God out there. There is spirit. There's a spirit. There's someone listening to us. And I think that's what led me into the journey of, I guess, success, but with grace, with knowing that it's not all about you. It's about giving back. It's about doing the right thing because there's karma and all that stuff, which really made my journey a lot more fulfilling.
Yeah, I can see that. I can experience that. And from the time I've come to know you, you've just been this ball of energy and joy, but also like this real strong theme of contribution. It's sort of like wherever I am, I want to be contributing and, just bouncing things off. Oh, I'll send this to you. And then 10 seconds later, it's been sent. So I picked up there on you said that you hadn't known about who Tony Robbins was. And I think I had a fairly similar experience. Like, I'd gone from school into jobs in the mining sector and engineering, and I was very much in my own world. Professional development was like the opposite thing. I was developing myself professionally, don't get me wrong, but like the personal side, I should say, was not really part of it. And I remember I went through a period just after I was in business. And I call it the first brick wall, the second brick wall. Now, usually business alone, like, you have this startup phase where it's really exciting. And it's like every time you get a client, it's like, wow, my business just doubled because you had one, now you got two. And then there's inevitably just a period where you go, bang, I don't feel like I can move forward from here. The cost of staff is more than I'm bringing in. There's some sort of setback.
I can relate.
Yeah. So like, Tony Robbins helped me sort of get through that to a large extent because I had two things happening. I had my father and I had started a business and we were churning through the capital that we'd sort of remortgaged houses or sold properties. And we had a really tight budget, but there was things that came in, competitor tactics, like trying to push us out, things like that. So that was a challenge. And then it compounded with like, I had a breakup at the time and it was a long-term relationship for the age I was in. It was a couple of years or more. And I was just rocked by it. I just did not see it coming. So it was sort of like, it reminds me of that Fisherman's Friend ad where the pendulum comes in and takes their head off and then it gets put back on. I was like, I didn't even know if I was facing the right way. And the Tony Robbins technique around manifestation, describing your partner, your life partner in intimate detail. So I had this thing of who is now my wife, Natalie. And I actually visualized this girl that had this sort of brownish hair, a little bit brownish red, believe it or not, and she did have red hair when I met her, that fitted perfectly under my arm so that when we were like together, like we would walk at the same height, but on the couch, I just imagined this person like tucked into me and that they perfectly yin and yang to my yang. Yeah, like, I'm sort of out there, extroverted, and I thought, I don't want to be clashing. I'm fine to be passionate and have things that I topic on, but I wanted someone that sort of complement what I wasn't, like that helped make me more whole and that I could help make them more whole. And I just look at all the attributes I described, and then I don't know how much longer it was. It was between 1 and 6 months, basically, that this person just arrived back in my life that I'd already met. I'd already sort of had an interlude with Natalie earlier on and came to know her, and then she moved overseas. And next thing, she's living at my property after coming overseas, moving interstate, and we've now carved out a life together, had kids together and everything. So the power of manifestation is unbelievable.
When you're clear, when it's meant to be, it just happens so quickly, right?
Yes.
You don't have to force it. You don't have to go looking for it. It just comes.
So what is the thing that precedes it arriving? How important it is that you are clear, like you just talked about, and what process do you use to create that manifestation opportunity?
Back then, before I became a Christian, actually, I felt that a lot of the things that we learn is all about me, me, me. What is it for me? It's like, I want this, I want a car, I want another, I want more love, I want more this. And I think after a while, you kind of feel like it's such a temporary feeling of feeling that, temporary satisfaction. You get it, you get the goal, but then that's it. But I think when I discovered faith, which is only about 4 or 5 years ago, it really helped me to see that how we're all connected. We have one God. We're all siblings. We're all his children, and we help one another. And so when you start to understand that we're all made to connect and help each other, the more you help, the more others help you, and everything just flows. And when you do the right thing by forgiving do you know all the verses in the Bible about forgiveness, about loving your enemy like your own, or ask and you shall receive. All of that has already been written. And if you just follow it, somehow things just land on your lap. So one of the key thing about the Bible is actually talking about trust, about you trusting in God, not trying to control it, not saying I want this goal, but hey, let me go and work it out. Let me go and figure it out, because how is it going to just happen? Because it doesn't make sense. It means we're kind of playing God. And so I've really found that it was much easier for me to trust now, whereas before not understanding. It's like when someone says trust the process, you're like, trust the person. Like it's hard to just trust. But when you understand that there is, your father, that is someone that is powerful than you, that can do miracles, that can bring someone to your life so quickly, I found it so much easier to trust. And then when you trust, it means you surrender. It means that you're not controlling. It means you work, whatever you do your best each day, but then you stop. Because if you keep going, it just means that you're still not trusting, right? And so it's about knowing what you want, but letting go. That when it's the right time, it will happen. And knowing what you can control and what you can't control. There's only, like for example, my husband was doing some tests at the hospital and he was worrying day and night. And I said, there is nothing you can do about it worrying from now to then, until you get the result, then you can worry about what happens. But by us worrying it robs the happiness of the day. And also you're trying to play God. You're trying to assume that this is going to happen. I know it's really hard to practice, but once you do and things start happening, and I've also learned that a lot of times when disappointments actually set you up for something even better. An example is I just had an event at EO and it was a bad thing that on a Sunday, which is 2 days before the event, the speaker we had planned couldn't make it. Now, I could look at that and go, oh my God, like how could that be? But I went, it happened for a reason. Okay, who can I find? And then when I found that other person, he ended up being a perfect fit, and then now
we're talking about Entrepreneurs Organisation, by the way. That's what EO is.
Yes. Well, when you say EO, people get curious. What's EO?
Yeah. Well, there we go. We just solved the curiosity straight away.
It is the community that we both met in. And I just love that the more you trust and the more things work out, the more how easy it is to trust again and again, and things will just land in your lap.
Yeah. I can see that. And even for those that aren't like, I suppose, religion spiritual, because like oneness, the universe, God, they are interchangeable words in different parts of society, yet there's a common sort of theme around the world, whatever avatar they place on the godly presence or whatever that may be. And a lot of it is about sort of performing life in a way that seems harmonious with the intention of why life is there in the first place. And when you're talking about the trust in the process, like I think the thing that can be taken away, even if you analyze it, is that if you hold an intention and you form a picture of what that looks like and you imagine yourself in that situation and it feels real and complete for you, particularly at the time of the intention and the manifestation or the meditation, then the trust is that I will trust that the universe will keep putting signals in front of me to show me when I'm on the track.
That's right.
Now, whether we think that that's a person handing it down with their masculine hand or whether it's just that we are more likely to look out for it, I really do see that sort of manifestation process. And you are like a real living example of that, Lynn. So talking of manifesting, and this has just gone so quick. You are such a rapid fire person. I love it. Like, man, I'm
like attract like.
Yes,
just
that's
fast.
right. Yeah, there's no yang and yang here. It's just yang. But when it comes to, you've got yin. You've got yin in you. When it comes to what you're manifesting next, what does the next decade look like for you in terms of business and personal life?
I don't know if I can travel more than I currently do. I'm currently traveling every month. So I feel like I'm pretty good on that kind of experience level. We're actually about to move into a new house, which is something that we've been wanting to manifest or been having that dream. And so it's happening right now. So I'm really excited about that.
Congrats.
But I guess the next phase in life is just really seeing our young kids grow and giving them all the experiences. So we're traveling a lot with them, which is the stuff that I didn't get to do when I was growing up. Because I've got everything all designed and set out in terms of like time with my husband, time with kids, and it's all balanced and it's all scheduled. I'm a very productive person. Everything is planned kind of like a year ahead kind of thing. Even the fact that we want to go out every 2 months together on a date, it's already in the calendar. It's just about finding the restaurant. So it's all kind of clear. So as long as all that's happening and I'm not sacrificing any of that, I do want to grow the business. I want to 10x it. I want to go to YPO, the next level. Not doing it because it's just, an ego thing. It's just more like I realized that if for a long time I played small. I was like, I treated my business like a lifestyle. I also felt like I'm a girl. So maybe it's harder for me. So all these limiting beliefs. And then I realized that why not set big goals? Because when you do, it requires you to grow, to be a bigger person. You need to be a better leader. You need to play a bigger game, which means that you'll develop yourself. So I realize also that, along the way, it's about who you become, the journey.
Yeah.
And I realize if I just go, I'm pretty satisfied now, I'll just, as long as my business is just ticking along, I'll be fine. It will mean that I'm not thinking outside the box. I am not discovering new things. I'm not trying to meet new people because I've already set. And so that is my goal. I do want to take my business to the next level while keeping my life balance, because I want to debunk the belief that, of course you have that kind of balance because your business is small. Or if you want a big business, you're not going to have a life. You're going to be divorced, or you're not going to have time with your children. So I believe that it doesn't have to be that way. So I want to be that living proof that, hey, you can have a serious business and big, and yet you can still take care of the people around you and have a good life. How and when I'm going to get there, I don't know. I'm going to leave it to God.
Yeah. Look, I love that. I'm absolutely confident that you are going to get there and to manifest whatever it is that you're putting out there.
Thank you.
A big part of what FlowZone's about is like living life in the flow zone. And flow is that amazing thing where we feel like on purpose. We feel like it's our destiny path.
Yes.
Like time dilates, whether faster or slower. We can see our goals, we can feel them, and we can feel when we're moving towards them, and the sense of ego drops, and our connection to this cause. And then the cause, ripples out to others in all areas of our life, not just the financial or the assets or big or small. So that's so fabulous with that. I want to get one quote off you to send us away here. And look, we've already heard a fair bit about your younger self and the challenges you're having and the arc that you have already made. So I want to sort of change this up a little bit and say that if you were talking to your younger self or someone just like it, but it was today, different circumstances, different world, AI's here, technology's here, lifestyle businesses, coaches, gurus, all that sort of stuff. What's the advice you're giving to that person that wants to make a change in their life today? What are you telling them to do?
I would say the Lynn back then never asked for help, always thought she knew everything. And so I did a lot of trial and error. I think I always tell younger people now is seek help, be coachable, always stay curious. There's always someone else that would know more than you who could help you, because if we could just change that part, the world is endless. There's so many books that you could read, so many people that could introduce you to someone just by you asking. A lot of times people, even older age, actually fear of asking. Number one is I don't want to sound dumb. Number two is I don't want to bother people. But there's so many people that want to help you. And so if you want to shortcut your success, is just stay humble and ask and allow all that information to come through people or through other resources.
I really love that. Lynn, you're not just an outsourcing angel. You're an angel in many ways. Thank you for coming on with your halo and sprinkling your angel magic over FlowZone podcast. I know this is going to be valuable for my viewers and listeners. I'm very grateful for that, and I hope it's valuable for yours as well.
Thank you so much for the opportunity, and so grateful to be part of your inner circle at EO as well.
I'm looking forward to going over to New Zealand with you soon.
Yes.
And I've introduced something into FlowZone. It's only recent, so apologies to those guests that came before now. But I'm wanting to just tie something back, whether it's a word or a gift or an experience or something that relates to the person. And knowing we're going to New Zealand, yours is happening over there.
Okay.
So we're going there within the next week. And I just didn't get enough research on you prior to get something that was meaningful. And I'm like, well, we're going to be in the same
sweet.
place. It's not about the size of the gift. It's just about the meaningfulness, the thoughtfulness of it.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Thanks for coming on FlowZone.
Thank you.
So my take on Linh Podetti, wow, the outsourcing angel that's an angel in many other places as well. Lynn's got so many lessons. Like I'd urge you when watching this to go back and actually just look at each paragraph that Lynn said and just see how many nuggets of gold there are in there, because I could have broken that into like 30 questions and I only actually asked a handful, but Lynn just puts so much value in everything. She's a real giver and she's putting a lot out to the universe. One of the things that she said there about asking for help, I think that one's massive. If I was advising my former self or anyone new, I find that there is a generation coming through now that don't mind asking too much, but they might ask in a way where they ask one, ask two, and they're done. I feel like Lynn is very good at putting an intention out there, doing everything she can to raise awareness and manifest it, but is not scared to ask for help. I've seen this when my entrepreneurial organization, EO, as we talked about, how good Lynn has been at sort of cross-pollinating all the ideas and bringing them back. She's got a lot of humility, which actually helps a lot. Even though she's confident of herself, she comes in, what I'd say, hungry, humble, curious. And that is a really valuable combination together. There's another thing that we didn't talk about in there that I know about Lynn that I think that Lynn would appreciate me saying, and is that she quit alcohol a little while ago, and that has been transformative on her life. We got into too much topic matter there to circle back and talk about that, but it is a common trait now amongst people that not only are successful in business, on metrics, on assets, on accolades, but people who are living a life of holistic success, which is what FlowZone's all about. It's a common trait I'm seeing more and more. People are either quitting alcohol or massively reducing the part that it plays in our life. And I know that's a big change for a lot of people on this side of the planet in Australasia, but I do believe it will be a big change for people in other parts of the world that will be hearing this. I'm so grateful for our international listeners. I can say that this trend is definitely unfolding in Australia, and I'm seeing the benefits personally as well as those that are around me. I still do drink alcohol on celebration occasions, but it's definitely not a default position for me. And it has absolutely transformed my energy, my mindset, and my mood. I can tell now that when I see other people around me that don't drink at all, it's almost like they're just filling the room with their energy. So that's something that some of you hopefully can take something away from. There's no pressure at all and no judgment if you still do it. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of FlowZone. If you like this, please drop a comment, please subscribe, or please just share it with someone else that you think it could be of value to.